Today we'll see a very famous love story, Wuthering, of course, a very classical novel, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Of course, you may have heard about Bronte sisters, Charlotte Bronte, who wrote Jane Eyre, and Annie Bronte, and this Emily Bronte. And this Wuthering Heights is a very, very renowned novel. It became it acclaimed universal fame. And here the main theme is love, as I said earlier, and the message is, of course, Emily Bronte brings out the pain of love. Love is very painful. That is the message that she conveys in this novel. That is the unfulfilled love of a tragic romance. It's unfulfilled love of a tragic romance, and hence the theme is love is pain. It tells the love of the intense love of Heathcliff and Catherine. Here, actually, the story starts with Lockwood, tenant coming to stay in the manor house or Thrushcross Grange, and there he one night while sleeping, he sees some lady figure near the window, like a ghost, and calling him to open the window. He comes out and talks to the housekeeper, Nellie Dean, Ellen Nellie Dean. He calls Nellie Dean and asks her the story around this place. And this Nellie Dean says, okay, I know everything about this manor house, the owners of the manor house, because from childhood Nellie Dean was working as a servant in Wuthering Heights. Wuthering Heights is another close by neighboring manor house, and there she says she was working for Earnshaw. His son is Hindley Earnshaw and daughter is Catherine. And what happened, this Earnshaw, he went once to Liverpool, and on his return he brought an orphan named Heathcliff. He wanted to raise this orphan boy, of course a black boy, pitch dark and very black in color, and he wants to bring up this boy as his own children, with his own children. So what happens, he brings home this Heathcliff, and these two, his own children, Earnshaw and Catherine, they had some hatred for dislike for this boy Heathcliff, but very soon Catherine started to develop a love for this Heathcliff, and this love very soon it comes to a full bloom, and she understands that she is inseparable from this Heathcliff. That is, they started playing on moors all the time. Catherine and Heathcliff, both children, are together. After 3 years, Hindley he marries. After some time, what happens? This father he sends his son Hindley for education. He had a close affinity with Heathcliff. He wanted to keep Heathcliff with himself, all the time with him, and this increased the dislike in Hindley. He started to hate Heathcliff like anything, because his father loved Heathcliff more than himself, more than this boy, his own son. So Hindley, he hated his father, and he wanted to take revenge on Hitler. That sort of feeling that he developed within him. After 3 years, what happens? His father dies, and this man, Hindley, marries Frances, 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 and this, as a sort of taking revenge on Hitler, Hitler was brought up as a son in the family, but now what happens? He made him work like a servant. Hindley makes him work like a servant, and he made him like a common laborer in the house, and he's taking in a sort revenge on Hitler. And here this girl, at the same time, Catherine, his sister, developed a close relationship with Hitler. She became very close to Hitler, and they started warring. They started wandering in the moors, and one day they went to the nearby manor house, Thrushcross Grange, and there Catherine meets Edgar Linton and Elizabeth. Edgar Linton and Elizabeth, father and mother of the Lintons. And here, what happened? This girl, she sees the two kids of the family, very cowardly, snobbish children. And the mother, Elizabeth, she sees that this Catherine has to be molded, and she just tries to help her to learn all snobbish manners. And here what happened? Kathy is bitten by a dog, and she had to stay there in Thrushcross Grange for 5 weeks for recuperation. And here what happens? At that time, Mrs. Linton, she is quite properly very young, and here this girl, Catherine, started to develop a love for the Linton boy, the Edgar Linton. And here what happened? Everything becomes very complicated, because till then she had intense love for Heathcliff, all the time roaming, wandering with Heathcliff, developed a very close relationship. But here now, what happened? All of a sudden, she became infatuated with Edgar. And here, when Frances dies, when she dies, there is in the other family, Wuthering Heights, Frances dies. Hatton Earnshaw, their son, Earnshaw's son, Hindley Earnshaw, Frances' son is Hatton Earnshaw, and this boy also is there. And Hindley, what happens? He develops a sort of addiction for alcohol. He descended to the depths of alcoholism, and very cruelly above he is going towards illness. And here what happened? This Hatton Earnshaw, the young boy, he is there, and now Kathy is given in marriage to Edgar Linton. What happens? She thinks that Heathcliff has no money. He is only a servant, a common laborer. How can I marry him? So for social advancement and for money sake of snobbery, she agrees to marry this Edgar Linton. And Heathcliff is very upset when she says that she has no money and things like that. He leaves the place. He is not seen for nearly 3 years. Meanwhile, this girl, despite the overpowering love for Heathcliff, she marries Edgar. And 3 years after her marriage, Heathcliff returns, and he comes to Thrushcross Grange and just looks through the window. And there he looks in the first floor, his Catherine being seated there, and Catherine also sees him and just couldn't control himself. He just stands there looking at her. Daily he comes and stands. And this girl also is very upset because she still has great love for Heathcliff. Though she, because of infatuation, she married Edgar, still she continued her love, deep love for Heathcliff. She couldn't come out of that. She goes to the extent of saying at a later stage, I am Heathcliff. Because of thinking of him constantly, my mind has become Heathcliff, my soul has become Heathcliff, my heart has become Heathcliff, and I am Heathcliff himself. That's how that's that type of intense love. And this Heathcliff comes very rich. So he wants to take revenge on both the families, on Catherine's brother, because this Hindley Earnshaw, who has become a drug addict now, alcoholic, he refused, he treated him as a servant, and he wanted to take revenge on Catherine's husband, Edgar Earnshaw, because Edgar Linton, because he has married his Catherine. So he wanted to take revenge on everybody. So he starts his counting. That is, he lends money to, he has become rich now. By some hard work for the past 3 years, he comes rich and lends money to Hindley Earnshaw to drink. Lots of money he gives, and finally deeper despondency, and he becomes, by giving money to him, this Hindley drinks, and finally he dies. So he is not able to return, he didn't return the money to Heathcliff, and naturally he becomes the owner of Wuthering Heights. And here, meanwhile, what happened, by visiting Thrushcross Grange to take revenge on Edgar Linton, this Heathcliff marries Edgar's sister Isabella Linton, and treats her very cruelly. He has no love at all. Just to take revenge, he marries this girl. He's all the time shouts and all the time treats her very cruelly in a wicked manner. And finally, Heathcliff, he's not able to control his spirit. He has become devilish, and he wants to take revenge, nothing more than that. So what happens, he is driven into madness. His heart and mind is full of revenge. And here Catherine too suffers like anything, mentally a great suffering, not able to find a solution. She's not able to seeing Heathcliff. She's all the time moans for not having married Heathcliff, because she has full love for, and Heathcliff also has got love, and very painful. She punishes herself, and she becomes very sick, and finally she dies. And here very pitiable in the case of Catherine, first Catherine, that is the senior Catherine. She dies, but she says, while alive, she says, he is more myself than I am. Whatever our souls are made of, his and mine are the same. These are Catherine's words. Both are same. I have to remind myself to breathe, almost to remind my heart to beat. So here she says, only all the time I'm thinking of him, and I have to tell myself I have to remind myself to breathe and heart to beat. And he's always in my mind. That is what she says. Not as a pleasure to myself, but as my own language. He is always there as my own language. This is what, even if all the world is perished, gone off, she says, and he remained, if Heathcliff remained, I shall still continue to be, and if all else remained, and he were annihilated, disturbed the universe, and turned to a mighty stranger. She says that we will live, even if the whole world is perished. But finally, what happens? Kathy dies. It's a very, very pitiable thing. She had such a love for Heathcliff, but she's not able to do anything about it because he has married Edgar Linton. And here, in the case of Heathcliff also, though he has married Isabella to take revenge on her, he too, after Kathy's death, he visits the graveyard very often. At nights he goes there. Such unimaginable love. He visits he says, she haunts me. She haunts me. And he says, be with me always, don't go away. He goes to the graveyard and says, be with me always. Take any form, I'm not bothered, whatever form it may be. Take any form. Drive me mad. Though I become mad, I am not bothered, but I want to live with you. I want you to be with me. That is his request or order or his wish all the time. Only do not leave me. You do not leave me. That is the only thing that I ask from you. In this abyss, this world, the whole world is like a dark abyss to me, where I cannot find you. You are dead, I cannot find. Oh God, it is unutterable. I cannot utter how much I love you. Yes, my love, it's inexpressible, and I cannot be without my life. You are my life. I cannot be without my life. I cannot be without my soul. So these are the ravings of Heathcliff. He's just visits the grave every night and every day, and just couldn't understand how much this is more of a romanticism and Gothic vision. The novel was influenced by both that is another important thing about the novel. It was influenced by both romanticism and Gothic fiction. And here she's so upset. He is so upset by her death. He says he cannot live without Catherine. That is his being very much angered by Heathcliff's behavior, his cruel treatment, unable to bear the pain. Isabella leaves with her son Linton. He is Linton Heathcliff. Linton, she named her son Linton. She leaves to London, and there she lives there for 13 years. And this boy, Linton, is being brought up by her. But after 13 years, he hears the death news of Isabella, and Linton comes to his father. Meantime, this Catherine Hindley Earnshaw, he gives birth to Catherine. Hindley Earnshaw's Catherine's daughter is Catherine Jr., and she is very beautiful and headstrong. She's very beautiful and headstrong, but Heathcliff, though she's headstrong, she's gentle, and she's influenced by her father Edgar. So she is very gentle and graceful also, but she has no knowledge about Wuthering Heights. She has no idea who lives there and all these things. She knows only about her place, Thrushcross. And Isabella, after her death, this boy, Linton, very sickly and very winning all the time, he comes And this Heathcliff, once again, he is cruel even towards his son than to his mother. Yes, he is very cruel to this boy also. And Catherine, after 3 years, this Catherine, she goes to Wuthering Heights. Second Catherine, Junior, Catherine's daughter. Edgar, Catherine's daughter. She's also Catherine Linton. Catherine Linton, she goes there to Wuthering Heights to meet Linton. So Heathcliff lives there in Wuthering Heights, there to meet Linton. Catherine goes there and she is very attracted by him. She develops a secret romance for Linton. She starts writing letters, and Nellie also, she's a servant. She burns the letters and she destroys that, and she doesn't want anything because they cannot plan anything, and everything will be decided by Heathcliff, and later it may bring sorrow, as in the case of her mother Catherine. So she didn't want anything, any such thing to happen to this Catherine too, the junior Catherine too. So what happens, she takes the letters and burns, and she didn't want this girl to develop love for Linton Heathcliff. But this Catherine, at night time, she used to go nurse him, this boy, and he develops his health. And this legal claim on Thrushcross Grange too comes to Linton Heathcliff. How is it? That is Heathcliff's plan. If my son Linton Heathcliff marries Catherine, I can get this Thrushcross Grange also. I can become the owner of both the places. So this is a sort of taking revenge on Edgar Linton. So this is what he is planning. And this man also develops some illness and nears death. So at this time, Heathcliff is planning to take revenge. Revenge is a great theme. Next to love for Catherine, this love, strong love has become a strong revenge also. And here what happened, Nellie and Catherine, they both go to Wuthering Heights, and there what happens, Heathcliff holds them as prisoners. He treats this girl, Catherine Jr., as a servant, tortures her like anything, not allows her to talk or give her any freedom in movement or action. So what happens, this girl was forced to marry Edgar Linton's son, but that boy, very sick, a sickling, he dies, and this girl in Wuthering Heights, she is forced to marry Linton Heathcliff, and this girl marries Linton Heathcliff. But Linton Heathcliff, that is not Edgar, this Linton Heathcliff is very sick and he dies. And finally what happens, Linton Heathcliff is dead, that is Catherine, and here she tries to marry the other person, but she was not allowed. And here, because of the death of Edgar Linton, Cathy's father, or senior Cathy's husband, here what happened, he becomes the owner of both, Heathcliff becomes the owner of both the manor houses, Wuthering Heights and Thrushcross Grange. And here, for nearly 10 years, this Catherine, she is locked inside this house and she is not allowed to come out, and she is very appalled, threatened. And finally what happened, she sees that some change, terrific change in Heathcliff. He is more like a devil with his face all the time. He is raving something. He visits her Mrs. Catherine's grave tomb very often, and at nights he walks. She can hear the heavy tread of his legs, and very horrible it was. She wants to let it out to somebody, but she has nobody to share her worries. And finally, Heathcliff, due to love sickness, he couldn't accept the death of Senior Catherine, and but still he wants to take revenge on everybody. And finally, due to his deep sorrow, he dies. And Kathy, she returns to this Linton's place, Thrushcross Grange, and she marries Edgar Earnshaw's son, Hampton Earnshaw. She was not allowed to meet him, see him, talk to him. She developed love, she had a secret romance for him. And now, after Heathcliff's death, she marries Hampton Earnshaw, and only after Heathcliff's death, the peace came to this land. And here, actually, this story is narrated. First, it was given as a narration by Lockwood, the tenant who has come here. He asked Nellie Dean. She narrates some part of the story, and another narrator is this Kathy herself, the junior Catherine. She has written in her diary about Heathcliff's behavior and how he ill-treats everybody, takes revenge on her and her father and Uncle Edgar Linton. All that Earnshaws, all that has been recorded by her. How she was ill-treated in Wuthering Heights by Heathcliff. So from her diary we get some narration, and some parts are narrated by Heathcliff himself and also by another tenant. So we have nearly 5 narrators in the story, and 6 months after the death of Heathcliff, Kathy, junior Catherine, marries Hampton Earnshaw. The story ends with that. So with the 5 to 6 narrators, we get the story. And this important thing about 2 quotes I would like to give about this novel. Virginia Woolf, she considers this Wuthering Heights to be a more difficult book to understand than Jane Eyre, because Emily was a greater poet than Charlotte. So this is Virginia Woolf's quote. Remember, this may be asked in TRB question. Virginia Woolf's quote. This is Virginia Woolf's quote about Wuthering Heights. She says that Wuthering Heights is a more difficult book to understand than Jane Eyre, because Emily was a greater poet than Charlotte. Another quote about this book is by a great philosopher, Randolph Otto, O-T-T-O, Randolph Otto. He says that I see in Wuthering Heights a supreme of the demonic in literature. Demonic in literature, more of devilishness in literature. So this is by Randolph Otto. So as far as this novel is, though it talks about a tragic love, but it talks about the strong, unimaginable love of Catherine and Heathcliff. Both are in the grip of love, and they don't want nothing else other than this. And it is only because of Kathy's foolish infatuation for Edgar Linton that came a tragedy in the life of both. And she wanted money, and to earn that money, Heathcliff leaves the home for nearly 3 years. In the meanwhile, she takes a decision to marry Edgar Linton. This becomes the cause for the ruin. Money, love for money at the cost of love has become the cause for Kathy's and Hitler's fall in life. And with that, because this Earnshaw, Hindley Earnshaw, treated him as a servant. He wanted to take revenge on everybody. This love for Catherine has become a sort of revenge. He wanted to take revenge on everybody. So he mars not only his life but the life of everybody just to become the owner. That is, because of money he was rejected, and so he wanted to become the owner of both the manor houses, and he becomes. And finally he didn't achieve anything. Till the end he is moaning, raving. All the time he is saying something or other about Catherine. He wants her at any cost. Says, "You be with me in any form." That is his call to Catherine. So very beautifully, Emily Bronte, though it is tragedy, tragic romance, very powerful, strong portrayal of love. Yes, this is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. If you get a chance, read the book. Very interesting. Thank you one and all.